Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Glad that you could join us once again and make us a part of your day. Going to have a conversation with Mr. Joe Reynolds. He's joining us here as research manager at Noble, and he's going to talk about some very sophisticated drug delivery training devices that help patients learn to administer their injection medications properly. Welcome to the program. Joe Reynolds, how are you?
Hi, Neil. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time and joining us here on Health Professional Radio. Well, I did say that you were a research manager at Noble. Give us a brief background about yourself. What is it that you do, and what is it that you do specifically there at Noble?
Sure. Well, we are a product development and manufacturing company that focuses solely on device training and patient onboarding. And at Noble, I lead our research team. So I work with our customers and our internal product development team to develop solutions to help address patients' training needs in the industry. So I work on the front-end innovation as well as downstream deployment with our customers who are biopharmaceutical manufacturers.
Now, I mentioned, delivery training devices to help patients learn to administer their injection medications properly. Now, we are talking about self injections because when, most of us, when we think about getting an injection, someone's going to give it to us, but what are some of the diseases or types of treatments that require a patient to inject themselves?
Sure. So we work across a variety of therapeutic areas ranging from type 2 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis and severe allergies, all the way to asthma and COPD. And like we were mentioning, Neil, one of the commonalities across the treatments that we support is the fact that patients will be self-administering therapy using auto-injectors, syringes, or inhalers.
You research across the board in all of those.
That's correct. Yes, we have a number of treatments both in the chronic market, so things like rheumatoid arthritis, plaque psoriasis, lupus, and many others that patients are self-administering, managing their treatments for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. And then we also have a number of treatments that are for episodic or acute use, so severe allergies or rapid onset asthma attacks. So a real broad spectrum, but the common denominator for us is that patients are self-managing their treatment and using drug delivery devices to administer their therapies.
Now, no matter what delivery device is implemented, there is going to be a first few times of a patient using these devices. What are some of your bigger concerns and some of the challenges maybe when you have to administer a shot, an injection, and you've never done it before? What are some of those challenges that a person might face?
Sure. So we like to think of the first few months of a patient's treatment. We refer to that as their onboarding or the initiation phase. And it can be a very emotional and challenging time for patients, especially if they do not have prior experience or proper training on drug delivery. Now, for injection devices specifically, auto-injectors and syringes, needle anxiety is often a treatment barrier that many patients experience, which can also manifest in the non-adherence and suboptimal outcomes longer term. Now, fortunately, we developed training devices that can help patients overcome this type of anxiety and then build their confidence and help them improve their quality of life through treatment.
So how do you train away anxiety? Talk about how these training devices improve, upon the typical boarding process when it comes to that anxiety and other aspects.
Sure. Well, historically, a lot of the injectable treatments that we work with, they have a weekly or a biweekly dosing frequency. So patients go into their healthcare provider's office, they're prescribed a treatment, but then they're not really using it for a long period of time. So during that time period, patients forget, anxiety builds, and without having training devices to practice with, then that forgetting really can lead to errors and mistakes when using their devices. So what we've done with our training devices is we've developed them to simulate the full user experience. So mimicking everything from forces required to remove caps and prepare the device, all the way down to the time and rate of administration. So in the case of an auto-injector, our auto-injector training devices simulate the deployment speed of medicines going into the patient's body. And they're resettable, so patients can reset our trainers and use them multiple times in order to increase the retention and then their application of that training information. We found through research that repetition is a great way to mitigate anxiety and help increase patient confidence.
Well, let's talk about some of this research, these device studies. How did you determine the success or lack thereof? How many people were involved, and how was it conducted?
Sure. Well, we conduct quite a few studies every year, both internally as well as with our customers, to understand patient needs and how we as a company can better serve stakeholders in the industry. So one of the studies that we conducted last year was a longitudinal study where we had 27 patients that we monitored over a 14-day decay period. And we developed this to simulate a traditional onboarding experience for patients. And we wanted to see how they engaged with and interacted with training devices over that simulated onboarding experience. And we found that patients were highly engaged with their training solutions. They used them many, many times, and it had a very positive impact on their success when doing actual injections. So all of the participants that received training devices during the 14-day study, 100% of them successfully completed all of the critical steps of their injection procedure, whereas folks that did not get training devices made a lot more errors and mistakes during the procedure. So we are now using that information. We're doing follow-up research right now to better understand how those 14-day findings extrapolate out over a longer time period as well. And we found that in our study, there were two types of patients that we had. There were patients that would practice repeatedly during their first few months of treatment. But then we found the majority of the patients in the study, they told us that they would use their training devices before every injection to practice for a long period of time of their treatment.
Now, these training devices in no way take away from the caregiver's responsibility when it comes to a positive patient outcome using these devices. How can these devices help the physician to be a better physician with their patients who have to self-administer? Exactly.
So that's exactly right, Neil. We're looking to really complement and enhance the training that physicians and other healthcare providers provide to patients that are learning how to use drug delivery devices. So in the point of care and in clinics, healthcare providers use our products in their offices to help show patients and train them in their initial training sessions. And then most healthcare providers also provide patients with access to training devices to take home with them to practice during those time periods between prescriptions, to go through and build the muscle memory and repetition through using the products in their home.
Where can our listeners go and get a lot more information about Noble and some of these devices, and about some of the studies that you're involved in the past and that are currently going on?
Well, our website is a great resource for information. It's www.gonoble.com. And also, I would encourage healthcare providers to ask their pharmaceutical companies for training materials, including training devices, as well. That's another great resource. Many of the manufacturers we work with have very robust patient support programs and services, and asking them for training devices or other support is always a great way to learn and get access to additional information.
Joe, thank you for joining us here on Health Professional Radio and giving us all this great information and telling us all about Noble. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program.
Yes, thank you, Neil.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, listen in and download at SoundCloud, and be sure and visit our affiliates page at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au.
Thank you for listening to Health Professional Radio. We're very proud to be an independent broadcaster providing our content free of charge to you, the listener. One of the ways that we're able to remain free and independent is by having people like you become patrons. You can support Health Professional Radio simply by visiting hpr.fm and clicking the button that says Become a Patron. Your patronage of even just $1 a month lets us know that you're there, which in turn makes us more valuable to advertisers. And, of course, if you're able to afford more, then we would certainly appreciate the support. My name is Toby Longhurst from Health Professional Radio. Please visit hpr.fm, click the Become a Patron button, and support us if you can.